सते देवी गौरवाण विचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. We will be discussing the science behind the four regulative principles. This is a very important understanding we all should have. And I will try to make it as simplified as possible. So, first, we will try to understand the mechanism. Of course, this mechanism behind addiction and all these things are same only. But I will not go more detailed. I'll tell very briefly about the mechanism little bit. And then we'll go to the regulative principles. So unless we learn this concept of the mechanism of addiction, we'll not be able to clearly understand how the addiction, how these four regulative principles are a problem. And but we'll not go for addictions. This concept we'll try to understand. The role of emotional memory in learning. So the mechanism of emotional memory. So here, the learning system relies on emotional memory. Emotional memory is like we will remember experiences associated with pleasant sensations and unpleasant sensation, both. Like say now I have uh, experience of eating an ice cream and I got a pleasant experience of it. I'm sorry. And same thing with unpleasant things also. So, like I have some pleasant experience with some food items, uh, food or some sweets or some people also. So then this is pleasant experiences. So we will remember this. This emotional memory is very important. So we remember uh, all the sensations which we have. And there is unpleasant sensation also. Same thing with places, people, and so this is the second thing. And now what happens is we repeat or we avoid actions. So if I have some good impressions, I want to repeat it. So next time when I see ice cream, I had a pleasant experience with ice cream, then I want to repeat the same thing. So I want to repeat, I want to enjoy again. Okay. So this is very simple to understand. Now comes the same thing. If I have, like if I hear about a person and I had a bad experience of it, what I will do, I want to avoid that person. I want to avoid that food item also. This food item, no, it is so bitter, so irritating. I don't want to do it. So this memory is given to all of us. So that impressions remain with us. Now neuropsychological mechanisms, and he says that in the 20th century, uh, so detailed study they started beginning by old Cell Miller, and they are considered pioneers in this area. See, all these things are there in Vedic literature, but these people, unless they experiment, they don't accept it. So then they discovered this very important, the pleasure centers in the brains. So first they discovered it in rats. Accidentally it happened. This is an accidental discovery. So what happened? That they made a mistake in their experiment. So instead of they were putting some electrodes in their brain, and then whenever the rat touches the some liver, immediately it gets shocked and it want to avoid it because you got a bad impression on it. So next time when you see the liver, you avoid it. Like we say, no? Like if you give very burning milk to a cat, it will never in its life it will touch anything related to milk, curd, everything. It is afraid because it got a very bad experience with milk. That means the memory remains for them. So they want to experiment this, that okay, you touch this liver, you get a shock. So now will the rat avoid it for the next time or not? But what happened is the electrode was inserted in unintended area. They wrongly placed it. So now instead of avoiding the shocks, the rat wanted to, no, it want to get the shocks. Compulsively, it is going again and getting the shocks. Scientists didn't understand. Arre, you are supposed to avoid the shock. And why this fellow is going again and again? So then they understood that the rat is continuously, they ran to the shock where it is trying to get to shock, including inducing that area. So when given a liver to control, then what they did, okay, they gave a liver to the rat only. He said, you can only control it. You can all the time press. And the rat pressed this obsessively and almost 7,500 times in 24 hours. And until it got completely exhausted. And then they, and also it neglected the need of food, sleep, and everything. So it is just continuously pressing it, pressing it, pressing it. Why this rat want to get a shock in the brain? So some of them rats even died due to compulsive liver pressing. Press, 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 exhausted, died also. Now, why are the rats doing like this? You are getting a shock, you want to avoid it. So then they understood that there is something that gives pleasure when that area of the brain is triggered. This is what scientists understood. So what they did, they said, oh, we understood the formula for happiness. You just have to put some electrodes in the brain, and there is some part of the brain which flares some pleasure in us. So scientists initially believed that rats were experiencing extreme pleasure. That's why they want to repeat it again and again. So they gave humans also, they put some electrodes in the brains as an experiment, and then they gave liver in the hands of people. They said, no, you, whenever you want pleasure, you press it. And what happens is, then they were speculating that implanting some electrodes in the humans could lead to perpetual happiness. And but the experiment was eventually banned because a few humans trials occurred after that ban, before that ban also. So what happened is, now the participant behaves similar to the rats. What they did, they press a button compulsively, unable to stop. And now what happened, they said that despite their actions, they did not desire the experience as pleasure, but rather as a despair. Now, okay, now the question is, they pressed it, right? Now you got some pleasure. But after some time, you are telling, I am not getting any pleasure in it. It's only despair. Then why are you pressing it again and again? You are, if you say you don't want, you are not getting any pleasure in pressing, but you continuously press, that is a problem. Even you don't feel, so they are telling that they are describe their experience as pleasure, but rather a despair only. They did not describe it as a pleasure. Initially, it is pleasure. That is the point. Initially, you get some pleasure, but after that, you cannot stop and you don't enjoy. This is a problem. Now, what is that? We'll try to understand. This is actually called dopamine, and the dopamine and reward system. So the more controlled study were conducted in the later part of 20th century. The experiments revealed that stimulation lead to increased consumption rather than increased pleasure. So this is the problem. So they lead to increased consumption. That means I am doing it again and again, but pleasure is not increasing. You're understanding? So the pleasure is not increasing, but only the consumption is increasing. Like I'm eating some substance, dopamine increases, but no pleasure. After that, no pleasure. We will come to that point. So rats ate more, but did not enjoy food more than their non-stimulated counterparts. So now these rats, they are eating more because of this flare in, because of this dopamine. We'll understand. We'll try to understand it more detailed. And same thing is happening with the people in a global level also. What is happening is the same principle is applied. People are becoming more and more consumers, and they are not getting same pleasure only, or less, or sometimes equal only. So the brain's reward system, rather than pleasure, was being overstimulated. This is actually what is happening. So there is a pleasure center called dopamine, which is overstimulated. So it is not giving any more pleasure. And now what happens is, here at a global level also, everybody is made consumers. People are driven to consume more, run faster, seek rewards without necessarily experiencing more pleasure. This is an unfortunate situation. Like people, they think I have more, I'll enjoy, but it is not happening only. They're just becoming consumer, and you work hard, then you go and purchase, and then again work hard and purchase. So they're running. Now, what is this dopamine? This is a neurotransmitter. Dopamine plays a crucial role in this reward system. So dopamine is responsible for driving compulsive behaviors as seen in both rats and humans. So now we will clearly understand the key to the brain's reward system is the dopamine. I will explain this now. Why it is happening? Why? Okay, if you are saying more you consume, more you experience pleasure, right? In normal sense. By why it is not happening? That also we'll try to understand. And why the rats are pressing and humans are pressing that lever again and again if they are not feeling any pleasure. Say now I am watching some video of some documentary. I didn't like it. What I will do, switch it off and go to another video. Or if you are eating something you didn't like, so you leave it and take something else. But why this person is pressing again and again if they are not feeling pleasure, right? So now we will try to understand the mechanism, the subtleties and all more detailed way. So dopamine is a small but powerful molecule that regulate complex brain functions. It's a very powerful molecule and operates a highly sophisticated and finely tuned system. It cannot come because of evolution. This is Lord's arrangement. This intricate mechanism was designed to either bring enjoyment in the material world or cause disappointment. So this mechanism what Lord created is for both, to enjoy also and to suffer also. It can guide us towards a healthy lifestyle, learning and avoiding harm. And this is another important. Guide us towards a healthy lifestyle, learning and avoiding harm. I will explain. The system is properly, means the Lord gave the system to help us only. And help us in what? Healthy lifestyle. I'll tell how it is. First is this. Second is learning. And third is avoiding harm. So these are the three main benefits. Anything that Lord created or gave us has a proper purpose. It is not by chance they are given. So this is given for a particular purpose. People are misusing, that's problem with them. But as such, the systems are given by Lord properly. What happens is, say, this dopamine, when we come to the mechanism of dopamine, I'll explain how it is helpful also. But I'll just tell that it is proper. Conversely, it can also lead to arrogance, self-delusions, and overconfidence. So these three benefits and three losses also. And why this Why these three things happens, we'll see. Now, subtlety of dopamine mechanism. The human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons. 86 billions. And around only 20,000 produce dopamine. Very, 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 very small. Where is 86 billion? 86 into 10 to the power of 25. 6, 7, 8. I think 8. And this is 30 into 10 to the power of 3. So this much difference is huge number. Now, this is the minuscule percentage. It has an enormous impact on brain functions. Now, dopamine plays a crucial role in passion, the desire, the rajoguna in the brain. Like we have software and hardware. The rajoguna is the software part and the hardware part is dopamine to some extent, you can say like that. And the 20,000 dopamine produced neurons control vast neural networks. They regulate what people perceive as pleasure, material happiness, or reward. This is how it comes is mode of passion in a certain level. In a gross level, it is dopamine. So pleasure is in mode of passion. Now, dopamine and search for pleasure. So people seeking enjoyment in this material world constantly try to activate their dopamine system. There, we are all working in activating this dopamine system. I'll help you to understand in future how this dopamine system works, but just try to understand whatever is explained. So what happened? This pursuits resembles the behavior observed in rats in the Olds and Miller experiment. So rat is also what the rat is doing. It is activating their dopamine system. These people who got experiment, it is having a river and pressing it again and again and again. They tied to its feet and it started continuously blessing 7,500 times. That means activating this dopamine. Just like the rat pressing the liver repeatedly for pleasures, human chase dopamine driven gratification. So not only rats, humans are also doing the same thing. Now, the deceptive nature of dopamine. So dopamine tricks us into seeking short-term pleasures at the cost of long-term well-being. By falling for the dopamine lure, we may unknowingly harm our lives. This is passion. In the initially, the passion, if you remember from the shloka from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells there is pleasure in initially, but no, Vishame, Pariname Vishameva. The long run is actually poisonous in passion. And in goodness, initially it is very painful, but long run it is good. So here, people who are seeking the pleasures of dopamine, the dopamine tricks for a short-term pleasures, immediate pleasures. And by harming it, what happens? Pariname Vishameva. Unknowingly harm our own lives. This they experimented and found out. Krishna already told in Bhagavad Gita. So all the principles are there in Bhagavad Gita. Now understanding how this dopamine system works. Now first thing is to fully grasp dopamine, it is essential to understand the unique features of how the dopamine system functions. So now we will come. We all have dopamines. It is pleasure center. It is because of dopamine we experience pleasure. It is a neural network system. Clear till now? Yes. Now the dopamine system cannot be satisfied. No matter how much dopamine produced, satisfaction never comes. Now what happens is dopamine is produced. If you hit that part, so dopamine is going to expand. So how this system works is, say we have the senses and mind. So now the senses give some information and it goes to the mind. And in mind, what we have on a gross level is the dopamine. So the senses, whatever product they give, food, you see something, you hear something, immediately that affects the dopamine. Dopamine flares. So dopamine is produced when some information is given to it. Immediately you feel a surge of pleasure. But this surge of pleasure never ends. So satisfaction never comes because of more and more produce of dopamine. There will never be a moment when a person declares, that's enough, I am completely happy, or wait a minute, you are very beautiful. That type of thing does not come. This results in continuous compulsive behavior, constantly chasing dopamine drive pleasures. So dopamine is actually, it is not pleasure center, it is pleasure seeking center. That will come later. But at least for now, we understand the dopamine player of dopamine causes a pleasure. You experience some pleasure and you want to repeat that pleasure. I told you, there is emotional memory. So emotional memory, what it does, it helps us to repeat the activity. So when dopamine flares, you experience some sort of pleasure emotion. That's why you want to repeat that action again and you want to give that pleasure again and again and again. Now, this results in continuous compulsive behavior, constantly chasing dopamine drive pleasures, and this is insatiable instability of desire. Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhena Ihavairena. So Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, referring to as Mahashano Mahapapma. This is the greatest, this lust. So instability of desire is called kama. I want to do it again and again. The desires are coming. This is called lust. So this is all devouring lust, Krishna tells. Desire is like fire. It can consume infinitely, but never be satisfied. Actually, I was avoiding many weekends, becoming lazy. Now, because you know, this award, I was now thinking I should justify whatever people are expecting from my side. So that's why again I'm starting this Saturday Sunday sessions. At least Saturday or Sunday, I will take some sessions and try to cover some topics also. And this is actually very helpful to understand in a scientific way. Why Krishna is telling Mahashano Mahapapma, even scientists also understood. Oh, a person who is trying to satisfy dopamine never be satisfied. He just enter into exhaustion. He's trying to do it again and again and again. He is thinking he is happy, but he is not going to get that happiness anymore. And Krishna already told this in Bhagavad Gita, very simple. Desire is like a fire. It can consume infinitely but never be satisfied. Don't worry. What happens now? Once I will take all these things and I will revise from the beginning, then things will be more clear. Even if you are not understanding, please be patient. Once you come to the next section, it will be clear. And again, we'll revise, then it becomes more clear. This is a key characteristics of dopamine system. It fuels endless craving rather than fulfillment. That means once you get some experience of dopamine, you want to repeat, endlessly craving for it, but we'll never feel fulfilled. After some time, you will never say stop. Yes, finish. I am completely satisfied. It does not happen. And so first thing is dopamine cannot be satisfied. No matter how this dopamine occurs, I explained to you. Say now, if I eat ice cream, that is senses. So the sensation come to the tongue and that goes where? To the emotional memory, right? And there, what is there? Dopamine. It experiences that, wow, this is so good. So dopamine flares when you give some item. That flaring of dopamine causes pleasure and you have a memory of it. And again, we want to do it. Wow, my dopamine felt means my dopamine flared if I ate ice cream. We will not think in that way, but the flaring of dopamine we consider as pleasure. So what we do? Take it again. Eat corn eating ice cream. So why? Because the flaring of dopamine is happening. And anything, if I am looking at some video and I like that video or some photo or image, immediately the information goes to dopamine. Dopamine feel excited and we want to repeat the activity. Now, first thing is it cannot be satisfied. Clear? Now, another point with dopamine is it strongly reacts to unpredictability. So now simple pressures are there which we want to repeat, but there are some things which dopamine acts in such a way that uh, dopamine flares so heavily. You get so much pleasure when you have some unpredictability. And this is very important to know. Anything unpredictable comes. So dopamine responds to unexpected rewards. So when a reward becomes predictable and routine, the dopamine response weakens. Say now, if you are getting some 500 rupee note in your old jeans or some uh, place or some purse old, we feel very excited. Then receiving a large expected, like monthly salary we are getting, that gives some pleasure, but more pleasure we get if we accidentally get some money. So one time people give us some donation in envelopes and we bring it and keep it aside. And suddenly, while removing other things, doing some cleaning, you found that envelope and you opened, wow, there is 5,000 rupees. So immediately dopamine flares because dopamine reacts to unpredictability. Some people every month they are giving some donation. That is okay. But this 5,000 gave more pleasure than regular donations also. Why? Because this is how dopamine works. First is unpredictability. And dopamine thrives on uncertainty and surprise, which fuels addictive behavior and risk-taking tendencies. This is actually what is happening. It thrives on uncertainty and surprise, and it fuels addictive behavior and risk-taking tendencies. And now, second thing is dopamine is highly sensitive to novelty and punishes lack of reward. I will explain these things also, like how it is helpful. See, these things are helpful also, and these things are we can damage also. Both things are there. Lord gave it properly. So dopamine is highly sensitive to novelty, new things, and uh, and punishes lack of reward. So the dopamine system is excited by novelty, but quickly loses interest in routine. Now, what is this? How it is helpful? It is helpful in learning new things. That's why Lord created. So we discussed here, if you remember, the three benefits are there. One of the benefits here is learning, healthy lifestyle, learning, and avoiding harm. So we were discussing this thing. So here, anything new. That's why when you get or a new book came in the market, so immediately we want to purchase. Now people don't want new books; they want new videos and other things, new material because it's all available. So new thing was important. So any new product, novelty, people want to purchase. How the advertisement companies they this is latest new mobile, new car, new this. The novelty, anything new that excites. So when you are purchasing a new car, for some time you are excited. After 3 4 days, after 1 week of staying driving the car, there is nothing new in it. Then what happened? It loses interest. So the dopamine don't give that much pleasure. Like the day we purchase the car, for 1 week, we may be having pleasure. After 1 year, the same car won't give the pleasure. So this is a very important thing to understand also. See, if car is going to give pleasure, it should give pleasure after 10 years also, right? Why the car is not giving pleasure after 10 years, which he gave on the first day? Because of dopamine. Dopamine don't react. It is new, you give. Here also one important thing I wanted to tell is, if you have something which is coming regularly, which is already expected, it won't give any pleasure. So same thing with things also, that there is no novelty. So say if you are having ice cream in the breakfast, lunch, dinner. Say for 3 months you have ice cream. We will not get the same pleasure in ice cream anymore. If we are having once in a week, you will get pleasure. Every day, 3 times. The same pleasure don't come. Why? If pleasure is in ice cream, you eat every day and any number of quantity. Like I am eating 10 ice creams continuously, one after another. The pleasure which I got in the first ice cream and the pleasure which I got in the 10th ice cream will be different. If ice cream is giving pleasure, why it is not giving 10th? Because dopamine don't react. So this is how the system is created. Why it is created also I will tell you. But here we understand, if anything is routine, it will not give pleasure. But yeah, once a reward becomes predictable, dopamine releases diminishes. So pleasure means the release of dopamine. Please understand. Whatever pleasure we are thinking is pleasure is because of the uh, dopamine rise on. Clear? And once a reward becomes unpredictable, dopamine release diminishes. When expected reward does not appear, dopamine draws below baseline, causing distress. This is very important. So this is for healthy lifestyle. So what I told first is novelty is for what? To learn. To learn new things, you need novelty. You can read books, you can get information, because it is more information we are getting, more dopamine is excited, so helps you to learn. First thing is, now here the second thing is dopamine draws below wrestling, causing distress. Now second thing is healthy lifestyle, I told, right? How dopamine is affecting? Every day I'm waking up at 4 o'clock, say 6 months I did, and after 6 months one fine day I got up at 8 o'clock. Immediately we feel very, very uncomfortable. You may have experience. You do every day nicely. One day you miss it. You feel a great amount of uncomfort. Arey, why did I get up at 8 o'clock? Why? Dopamine punishes. That is actually it draws below. Now getting up 4 o'clock, you may get some pleasure. Wow, today is very nice. I got up at 4 o'clock. So you will feel that pleasure for say few maybe 1 2 days. After that, you don't get any pleasure from it. But if you don't do it, you get punishment. You get pain if you don't do it. You're understanding the difference? That is because of dopamine. You don't get pleasure anymore waking up at 4 o'clock. But if you don't get up, punishment is there. You feel sad for it because dopamine drops below sleep. Okay. Now, same thing. If you are giving a person beggar every day 100 rupees, and one fine day, every day you gave for 1 month, and one fine day you are walking by the beggar and you didn't give the beggar that 100 rupees. And the beggar reacts angrily and he feels entitled for the reward. I am supposed to get it. Why this person is not giving? He gave for 1 month. Na? No, no, no. I have to decide. So this is actually dopamine. Dopamine, you give something constantly. If it is it will not give pleasure, but if you stop, it will punish. Okay. And surprise based learning. Unexpected reward makes people curious, promoting them to search for pattern in events. So this is another important thing. Now, this is separate point. Dopamine and self-stimulation leads to egocentrism. Constant self-stimulation via dopamine reward shifts focus inward, fostering egocentric behavior. So one time this can distort personality and contribute to narcissistic personality disorder. So narcissistic, they're just interested in their own pleasure. That's all. They don't care what is happening to others. Some people are so heavy in this. They are like in some houses. All the people in their house should work for them only. For what reason? No reason. I am the boss, that's all. So this is narcissistic personality disorder, and this is because of so much focusing on one's own pleasure and trying to clear this dopamine. So personality disorders and dopamine. So narcissistic personality disorder is likened to an overly sensitive dopamine system. So affected individuals become obsessed with material pleasures and personal gratification. So then there are serial killers. Many had a hypertrophic, trophy, trophied dopamine system, leading to cruelty and lack of empathy. So now we will uh, dopamine. It is hardening the heart also. Yeah. Now this is very important. I will take little more time because I have to cover. We just reached half. No, we didn't complete even half also. We just reached. But these all things are helpful to understand the four regulative principles also why it is. So dopamine and hardening. A life centered on pleasure seeking makes the heart rigid and insensitive. And we can see many people like that. And when pleasure center is overstimulated, higher brain functions, buddhi are suppressed. So this is another two very dangerous thing. One is heart is getting harder, rigid and insensitive. Higher brain functions, buddhi is suppressed. They don't use their intelligence. They're in an emotional state. They're getting pleasure by smoking and boozing. They understand it is damaging my health, but their buddhi is not so strong uh, to stop it. They are not able to understand that I have to stop because it is so dangerous for me. So this is so these are the dangers. Hard hardening suppresses the intelligence. Statutory warning is written and the uh, alcohol also and the smoking also, but still people do it. Why? They don't use their intelligence. They are just in emotional state. Effects of excessive dopamine activation is it reduces intelligence and self-control. I'm getting pleasure, but losing intelligence, self-control, loss of freedom, becoming a pleasure-seeking robot, inability to predict long-term consequences of our actions, and blind obsession with immediate gratification, ignoring risk and responsibilities. Clear? And then we have this dopamine system and learning. So despite its the dopamine system plays a crucial role in learning and survival. We discussed this, right? So it helps the brain remember beneficial behavior and patterns. So now, if I remember that if I put my hand in certain things, it will give me pain. And if I put it someplace, if you are touching some cold or something, you get pleasure. So that helps us to behave in a particular way, remember, and patterns also. Okay, this is the way I get pleasure. I do it like this. So remember beneficial behaviors and patterns. So the problem arises when human exploits the system, manipulates it for pleasure rather than leading and growth. So now comes the main point. How the dopamine system deceives. Why dopamine does not make us happy. So we have understood it's a giving pleasure, but why it is cheating then? The deeper study of so-called pleasure center in the brain led scientists to a surprising discovery. What is this discovery? It turns out that it is not a pleasure center, it's a pleasure anticipating center. This is the main problem. Dopamine is not pleasure center, it is a pleasure anticipation center. It's not exactly pleasure. Dopamine does not create pleasure. Instead, it triggers a state of excitement and readiness. So this is first part to understand and meditate. That dopamine does not create pleasure. Instead, it triggers a state of excitement and readiness. The excitement prepares the body and mind, but does not provide real happiness. This is how much cheating we are getting. You see, it prepares the body and mind. And the fatal mistake of conditioned living beings is confusing dopamine inductive experiment with true happiness. I'll explain this. See, now what happens is, if you tell to a boy, small boy, 6th, 7th class, 6th class or something, that tomorrow you have birthday party and so many gifts you are going to get. Now, he did not get any gift, but just by knowing that you are going to get gift, he is already happy. How? And sometimes, tomorrow is my birthday party, and the child will not get sleep also in the night. He'll wake up at 2 o'clock and ask, time over. 4 o'clock, he'll wake up and ask, time is over, morning happened. He's so much excited about it. Why? Because of dopamine. He didn't get anything. The anticipation, that's what, it's a pleasure anticipation center. It is not pleasure. It does not create pleasure. Instead, it triggers a state of excitement. Like say, I gave the same example of ice cream when we take or some other item which you like. So if I am eating first mango. Now if mango gives me pleasure, I got pleasure. Second mango I ate, I got pleasure. Third, fourth, fifth. Now 50th mango you are eating continuously. Will you get the same pleasure? No. Why? If mango is pleasure, you should always feel pleasure, right? But mango is not pleasure. What is pleasure is the trigger of dopamine is pleasure. So this is what dopamine does. It will trigger. So it's not pleasure center also. It makes a body in a state of excitement. It triggers a state of excitement. That's all. And readiness. That we consider as pleasure. Like I gave the example of a boy. He didn't get any party or gifts, but he got that state of excitement and readiness. He's experiencing that pleasure. He's thinking, yes, I'm so happy now. My birthday is happening. When we eat anything, when we see some things, immediately dopamine hits. It makes, wow, something special you got. That is because the senses are created in such a way, they help excite the dopamine. When you eat something, the senses will may help the dopamine to hit with some items. And you want to do it the same items again and again you do, and dopamine says, now I'm no more excited with your gulab jamun. You are eating the 10th one. When you ate first one, that time my senses and the dopamine had a connection which flares. Says, yes, I enjoyed it. No, you just, dopamine does not clear prayer. It instead it triggers a state of excitement and readiness. That's all. This excitement prepares the body and mind and does not provide a real happiness. The fatal mistake of the living beings is confusing dopamine instead excitement with real happiness. dopamine induced excitement to this happiness. So this is the point here. Any pleasures which we are getting, say person is watching a movie. Now, what happens is the thriller movie or something. The hero is going to die. Protagonist is now he is jumping here, there, and running and trying to escape himself or whatever. So what is happening? Our dopamine starts flaring. It starts experiencing. It starts becoming excited. Nothing happened there. We are imagining something. Something is happening there. Something is happening there. So this something happening will flare. That's why people want to watch this mystery movies or thriller movies or something. Even romantic also. They imagine that this person is enjoying. That makes me excited. And that flares the dopamine. I didn't get anything. I only imagined. So this that is a fatal mistake we are doing. Oh, I enjoyed this movie. Arre, you didn't enjoy. You just dopamine flared. That's all. Then what is real enjoyment? Okay, you are telling ice cream I didn't enjoy, movie I didn't enjoy, anything I am not enjoying. It's only flaring of dopamine. Then what is real enjoyment? That also Vishnu, right? That will be end of the class. First I'll complete this part. So now the illusion of hope I am being relevant. So the illusion of dopamine induces happiness. Krishna warns in Bhagavad Gita the temporary happiness. Adhyantavantu kaunte nateshu ramate buddha. Adi antaha. This pleasure has beginning and end. Any pleasure which has beginning and end, na adhyantavantu kaunte nateshu ramate buddha. Who are intelligent, they don't try to enjoy something which has beginning and end because that causes pain also. So Krishna is warning temporary material happiness is deceptive. Dopamine based pleasure is momentary, fleeting, and tries to sensory stimulations. So true happiness is an entirely different emotion. One that dopamine alone cannot provide. No addictions lead to lasting happiness. So dopamine system puts a person in an excited state, creating the illusion of fulfillment. This is the problem with dopamine. We will you when we know what is real happiness, then also this becomes easy. So the trap of anticipation versus reality. Now we mistake the anticipation of reward to reward itself. Like I told the example of a boy, he didn't get any party, but the name that he's going to get party, it itself made him happy. So a donkey follows a carrot dangling in front of it, believing it is happy simply because it can see the carrot. So the carrot effect explains why people endlessly chase rewards, believing they are on the verge of happiness. So the entire reward system in our brain functions on the principle of arousals rather than actual fulfillment. This is very, very important. Maybe I will revise again once we come. And people mistakenly interpret this arousal as happiness as the ultimate goal of life. Now come the main discussion of our topic is the four regulative principles. Why these four regulative principles? What is the scientific understanding is this section. Hacking the dopamine system. So this dopamine system is given to give so-called pleasure. It is given the anticipation of pleasure. It is not the pleasure also. Now we are very intelligent. Anything Lord gives, we will only misuse. Most of the time there is cunningness in, there are cunning humans who knows how to misuse the property which is given by Lord. Now what people do, the dopamine, there is a system, they are hacking the dopamine system and dopamine and addictions. So the malfunctioning in dopamine system underlies all addictions. These malfunctions are what we call addictions. When the dopamine system is hijacked, understanding the reward system and dopamine's deceptive roles allow us to explore how the dopamine system can be. So this is very important, that hacking of dopamine and the four ways of hacking. So now these four regulative principles which we are discussing, there are actually four ways of hacking this dopamine. That means we want to always flare this dopamine. There is no need to reinvent anything. People have already discovered four powerful ways to hack this dopamine system. These hacking mechanisms vary slightly, but they all lead to the same results. When a person engages in any of the four actions, the dopamine system gets overloaded. And this happiness is in the nuclear compenses, as known as the pleasure or anticipation centers, which is deeply connected to learning and memory. Clear? The result of dopamine storm, a massive influx of dopamine of the brain system regions. Sorry, brain stem regions. This part, back part is where all this dopamine flares, of course, in the brain also. Now, how this dopamine works? In normal life, the dopamine system rewards us with small dose of pleasure. Very important, please hear. Like say I'm eating rice, dal, sabji. We get some pleasure. Why that pleasure is dopamine is hitting. Even if we eat right dal, sabji also, it immediately flares dopamine, you experience some pleasure. And you will see a beautiful served food. So it initiates desires and anticipation. And now what happens is dopamine has a protective mechanism also. And that is the reason is this is the next topic. Why some substances are addictive and others are not. We say, okay, if you experience some pleasure in eating rice, we continuously going on eating rice, why are we stopping then? Why it is stopping? And why same thing with what do you call ice cream or anything. After some time we stop eating it, right? We don't get, even though our stomach is not full, but we cannot eat them because dopamine don't react. Why? Normally the body prevents dopamine overload. This is most important. Why some substances are addictive and others are not. We don't get addicted to rice, dal, sabji, cereals, fruits. But there are some things, alcohol, non-veg, smoking, drugs, and gambling. So for these people are addicted. Why not for rice, dal, sabji, and some milk? Because what happens, the body prevents dopamine overload. This is why some activities and substances does not cause addictions. This is the first point to know. Dopamine is given to help us learn, to be regulated, to take the proper things and to protect ourselves, good lifestyle. But, and also dopamine has limitations. It is always, it does not overload. Now, substances that cause a normal reward, like food, do not lead to dopamine overproductions, right? The body has built-in inhibitory mechanisms to prevent overindulgence. Say example, a person can eat strawberries and enjoy them, but after a while they lose interest and stop doing it. Same thing with any other food items. But however, some substances like drugs and narcotics overdose these inhibitory mechanisms. What happens is, say we have this electric system, we have fuse, and what fuse does, it protects excessive electricity entering into our house and the gadgets. So if excessive electricity comes immediately, the fuse melts and will not get any power supply. So fuse wire is very, very thin. Now why? To help. Similarly, the dopamine also has these fuses. You try to give over it, fuse will go. So you don't get any pleasure in it. I'll keep 100 ice cream in front of me, start eating. After 10, the fuse dopamine, it gets saturated. No more eating because it want to protect you. If you eat 100 ice creams, we end up in hospital. So this is the point. But there are some substances which uh, which are not going to stop. We'll see why. So the more a person consumes, the more pleasure they feel without even reaching a stopping point. So that is why certain substances cause addictions quickly, while others not. The core problem with addictive substances is that they allow for nearly endless consumptions, like natural processes, and fade over time. Now comes the most important our topic of discussion: 4 ways of hacking. So, hacking the dopamine systems allows a person to trigger a dopamine storm, experience an extra reward, and feel like God. So, this is the problem: full control of their reality. The dopamine giving, but when you hack it, then the person is triggering a dopamine storm, experience an extra reward, and feels like God. Normally, dopamine reward system gives small burst of pleasure, providing a sense of control, luck, and happiness in moderation. So normally every day we get dopamine. Every activity we are getting dopamine, but that is moderate. It gives sense of pleasure, sense of control, luck, happiness. Some things are there. However, people have discovered ways to manipulate the system and pushing it beyond its natural limit to create intense artificial highs. So the first and most accessible way to hack the dopamine system is through unpredictability and deceptions. We remember anything unpredictable, dopamine flares. And also with the deception, also dopamine flares. So first is there is a lie. This is the first regulative principle. This is of gambling. So here gambling is it is exploiting unpredictability, the lie that triggers dopamine. Now, the power of uncertainty. The dopamine system reacts instantly to unpredictable rewards. This is the foundation of hacking dopamine. So, the first thing is reacts instantly to unpredictable rewards. So, lying and deception creates unpredictable rewards. If the lie succeeds, the reward is huge, a dopamine jackpot. If the lie fails, the risk and tension feels the craving for another attempt. So now what happens is when a person is hitting a jackpot, they make it such a way that it's 20% chance of winning, not more, also not less. If he wins more number of times, he will lose taste. If he gets, if does not get also, then also he cannot do. They'll make in such a way that you win at a rate of 20%. And what happens is first time you win, second time you win, third time you win, and you got so much excitement because something illegal also gives us pleasure. So here, when it is told that absolute sense of God, so this is yeah, he feels himself to be yeah, feel like God. He is in full control of their reality. So this is actually one of the things. So when we get any jackpot or anything, we are not doing it legally. You just got it. No reason you got $1 million. So immediately the dopamine, yes. And then when we don't get, when we start losing the money, then what happens? Dopamine is hitting down, 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 down. You feel so despair. you want to again get it because you got so much excitement. Now you have to get every time that excitement to be happy. If you're not getting, finish. That's the reason people go and like I was having one friend who was working at a race course. We have horse race trade, and then the people they do bettings on that. And he said most of the people they are not very rich. There are people who drive cabs and autos and other simple people. They come invest, lose their money, not in thousands, in lakhs only. They sell their house, they sell the Mangal Sutra of the wife also, and everything. Why? Because of dopamine only. They are not getting any pleasure, but dopamine is punishing them. So if the life phase, the risk and tension fuels the craving for another item. You understand? So why lying feels so rewarding? So lying provides an unexpected advantage. That is dopamine. Like say if I want to enjoy, I would speak lies. That is another way of life. Like children, why children speak lie? Because they want to enjoy. So here also lying provides an unexpected advantage, making the reward feel even greater than honestly earned one. Honestly, we got 1 lakh rupees, but because of cheating, we made 10,000 extra. So that 10,000 will give more happiness than this 1 lakh also. Fraud and deception triggers a sharp dopamine response, then legitimate effort. The brain perceives deception as a way to cheat the system and obtain rewards without efforts. So this is another thing that the brain perceives deception as a way to cheat the system. Now, gambling connection. So, gambling is built on this principle of unpredictability. Casinos, slot machines occasionally grant wins to keep people hooked. If a person never wins, never won, they would stop playing. So, the system delivers occasional unpredictable wins to create the environment. So, gamblers develop irrational rituals or beliefs to convert themselves. They can control the outcome. So here the illusion of being God. I'm talking only first regulative principles of gambling only. This is all. So why gambling is because of this. What is the unpredictability and a sense of uh, being God. No need of following any rules. The illusion of being God. At heart of this dopamine hack is the desire to cheat and feel omnipotent. I need not follow any rules. I am God. I am all powerful. I don't need to earn my rewards. I can just take them. Gamblers chase this illusion, believing that they can overcome the system. So the trap, losing control. So when a gambler loses, stress and despair built up because the dopamine system drops below baseline. You understand? So the dopamine system drops below baseline. You remember I told every day you are waking up 4 o'clock, you don't get pleasure. You don't get up, then the dopamine goes down. It drops below baseline that you feel this. If it goes up, you feel excited. If it goes down, you feel pain. That's how it is. So the urge to win again becomes overwhelming, leading to risky and irrational decisions. This is what it is. Eventually, person loses complete control. They're trapped in a cycle of chasing losses and desperately seeking another high. So that this is the danger of summing the dopamine gene. So the gene came out, and now you have to control the gene. It came out of the bottle. Once released, it is nearly impossible to put it back. So the dopamine system can be hacked in different ways to artificially create a dopamine strong, leading to addictions and loss of control. After unpredictability and deception, the second and third ways to hack dopamine involves cruelty, power over others, and the pursuit of endless love. So this is, and second thing is cruelty. Uh, and then third one is endless pursuit of novelty, and the fourth one is with the drug substances. So we have quite few slides. Uh, if you're okay, we'll continue. Or you have some questions. Okay, I will continue for a few more minutes. We'll try to complete this. The second one is cruelty and power over others. So how power triggers dopamine? So when a person exerts power over others, the dopamine system reacts instantly, providing an addictive rush. So that means like prison guards or concentration camp officers, they observe, they abuse prisoners. So they get this extra power over others. That gives a huge amount of dopamine. Like killing innocent animals or people and consuming meat is also like that one. So when a person is eating meat, he is feeling that power over other living entities, bullying children or other vulnerable individuals. So serial killers, and what happens is serial killers and maniacs describe feeling immense pleasure during their violent act. So when they are killing somebody, they feel control over others. That gives dopamine flare, and that's why they want to do it again and again. For no reason, they become serial killers. This is because the brain is wired to react in this way. Reward, rewind, rewarding dopamine over dominance over sorry, rewarding dominance over others. Now, once experienced, the dopamine high becomes addictive, pushing them to repeat this crime again and again. And now the link between violence and dopamine addictions. So even on a smaller scale, eating meat uh, obtained through violence can trigger this dopamine response. The same occurs when people derive pleasures from bullying others or extorting control over weaker individuals. So these dangerous addictions enslave a person, making them dependent on cruelty for dopamine rewards. And then next one is endless pursuit of novelty. So this is so now when is first one gambling is why? Because of unpredictability and because of no need of following rules. And the second one, meat eating is what? Cruelty or absolute control over others, that also flares dopamine. Clear? Now we'll see the novelty. The third one is new things. Here also novelty. In gambling is unpredictability, sorry. Here novelty is because of illicit activities and pornography. So the dopamine system reacts sharply to everything new. This is the third way people hack dopamine. Endless stimulation. It tricks brain into constantly seeking new rewards, creating addictions. So one is pornography, a dopamine trigger. And pornography is a prime example of how endless novelty leads to addictions. A person repeatedly seeks out new images and experiences to maintain dopamine stimulation. If only one image were available, dopamine production would actually quickly drop. And now this is another important thing. So the ability to constantly renew the source of stimulation fuels addiction and compulsive behavior. This is a problem. What happens is we need renew the source of stimulation. We want newer and newer things. Now the same video or same movie or same jokes, same things in the YouTube won't make any pleasure. So what we have, you have recommendations on the side. When you go to YouTube channel, you watch some video, they recommend it. They say this video saturated you, you try for something else. So we have constant to renew the source of stimulation. It fuels addiction and compulsive behavior. So because I want to get that pleasure, I just continuously watch one video after another, one movie after another, one cricket after. So yeah, continuously doing it because it becomes compulsion for us, because I want to renew my enjoyment. So the illusion of freedom, the brain constantly craves new experiences to sustain dopamine release. However, this pursuit lead to enslavement, not freedom. So trapping people in a cycle of seeking artificial pleasure. And now true happiness and freedom comes in completely different way. So opposite to outside the dopamine drive. So this I told I will tell in the end only. I'll not break the suspense. Now the most stupid way to, this is the fourth one, to hack the dopamine is use of drugs. So even alcohol, smoking, all comes under this category. So till now we saw three regulative principles and three things that are causing it. The all three are connected to dopamine also. This is the most stupid way to. Drug addiction is the most destructive way to hack dopamine systems. All drugs ultimately affects dopamine, leading to a cycle of self-destruction and loss of control. Now, how drugs impact dopamine? Every drug, regardless of its primary effects, ultimately involves the dopamine system. Some drugs like LSDs primarily affect serotonin, but dopamine is always part of the process. The most dangerous drug are those that directly trigger dopamine, with cocaine being the most extreme example. So now what happens is, uh, say you are taking some substance and it hits the dopamine. Now dopamine has what I told, it has a mechanism of saturation. And now what is the saturation? This is like a fuse, right? Fuse of the. Now what we are doing, we are giving the substance, we are bypassing this fuse. Fuse is there. You are bypassing the fuse and directly hitting dopamine. So then the dopamine flares and there is no protective mechanism now. You have bypassed it. This is called hacking. My electricity should come to the house. There is a fuse in between. I just directly connected without connecting to the meter. So I'm directly getting the dopamine hit. So cocaine overload. So cocaine hijacks the dopamine system, causing an extreme surge of dopamine in the brain. Even sugar also, no? Heavy excessive sugar. People try to take this cold drinks and soft drinks and whatever. There excessive sugar in it. That is also hitting dopamine on. And addict experience cocaine marathons, using it repeatedly despite diminishing satisfaction. Over time, cocaine users lose control, trapped in an endless cycle of trying to regain their initial high. And this is dopamine addiction in its purest form. Dopamine addiction purest form is cocaine, which destroy them. A person destroy themselves while being unable to stop. Of course, more things are there, but I don't want to overload you these things. Maybe we can continue next week. If anybody has any questions. The fuse is that the fuse in this is the dopamine self-protective, means it is what is a saturation which dopamine gives. So this we have discussed. There is always saturation. We discussed it. This why some substances creates addiction, why not some substances. So this is the system is, yeah, prevents dopamine overload. So this is some activities and substances don't become addictive because They do not, there is an inbuilt inhibitory mechanism. So this is the fuse. So this prevents overindulgence in taking of dopamine. So for rice, dal, sabji, they don't give that effect in dopamine because it. So Lord created the substances. Okay, this much you can eat. Don't eat. Go for non-veg. Don't go for alcohol. Don't go for cocaine. Don't go for these things because that will hit the dopamine. Actually, I just told very gross way of. We can discuss in a much more philosophical way the same topic, but I want you to understand the grossly. Then slowly we can philosophize and try to understand why Krishna created and what exactly is happening. I didn't have much time, so maybe some other time we can discuss more on this. I understand actually it's very tough to uh, uh, digest this topic in one go. Hope you'll understand something. Any questions, comments? We'll end here. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada.